Every story with a narcissist begins the same way. At first, they make you feel seen, understood, and chosen, as if out of millions you were the one. Their words drip like honey. Their eyes shine with warmth and attention. You truly believe you've found real love, the kind you've been searching for all along. But then that warmth slowly turns cold. The person who once made you feel special now makes you question your own reality. Care turns into control. Affection becomes strategy. That's the true nature of a narcissist. They don't steal your love, they borrow your reflection. They study your kindness, mirror your empathy, and then use it as bait to keep you trapped in their web. By the time you realize what's happening, it's often too late. You're already caught in a maze of confusion, guilt, and self-doubt. In this video, we'll uncover 7 early warning signs that you're dealing with a narcissist. The subtle signals hidden behind charm, confidence, and perfection. Because once you learn to see beyond the mask, you're no longer their supply. You become free. 1. Love bombing. When love hits like a storm. It always begins with something that feels perfect. They enter your life with a warm smile, deep eyes, and a way of speaking that makes you feel truly seen, maybe for the first time in your life. They pay attention to every little detail, your favorite food, your hidden fears, the dreams you've never dared to share. Every word, every message, every embrace makes your heart bloom like flowers in winter. And you believe, this must be the love you've been waiting for. They make you feel chosen, understood, loved so deeply that you forget to ask yourself, why is everything happening so fast? Because you're not falling in love. You're being love-bombed. Love bombing is an emotional assault carefully designed to make you dependent. A narcissist doesn't love you, they study you. They watch what makes you smile, what makes you soften, and use those very things to build a perfect illusion. They mirror the ideal image in your mind and make you believe they are that image. Once you're hooked, they begin to withdraw. Their messages slow down. Their gaze grows colder. Their voice becomes distant. You find yourself confused, anxious, blaming yourself, trying to fix things without even knowing what went wrong. And that's when they know they've succeeded, because you become addicted to the feeling of being loved by them. Love bombing isn't the beginning of love, it's the opening act of manipulation. A sweet trap where you slowly lose your boundaries while they quietly take over your heart, your trust, and your freedom. 2. The mask of perfection. When perfect becomes a trap. After the sweet stage of love bombing, you start to notice something strange. They're too perfect to be real. They speak with confidence, look polished, and always seem to have the right answer. They appear moral, charming, knowledgeable, almost like the ideal version of the person you've always dreamed of. And it's that very perfection that disarms you. When they share stories from their past, you feel sympathy. When they talk about the people who hurt them, you instantly want to be the one who finally understands and heals them. You start to bond, to empathize, and to believe you're lucky to have met someone so good. But slowly, the mask begins to crack. Their stories stop aligning. Small gestures, a glance, a tone, a flash of irritation reveal something colder underneath. You notice they never apologize, never take responsibility, and somehow every conflict becomes your fault, or someone else's. If you point out the inconsistencies, they smirk and say you're too sensitive or overreacting. The narcissist's mask is built from illusions of superiority, intellectual, moral, or emotional. They don't want to be loved as a real person, they want to be worshipped as an image. Everything they do revolves around keeping that image intact, even if it means twisting the truth, manipulating your emotions, or making you question your sanity. Eventually you realize they never cared about connection, only control. And when that mask starts to slip, they'll do everything in their power to convince you that you're the problem, not them. That's when the real game begins. 3. Gaslighting. When your reality is twisted, it starts with the smallest things. A sentence you're sure they said, but they deny it. An action you clearly remember, but they insist it never happened. And at first you push back, but slowly you start to doubt your own memory, your own feelings. That's gaslighting, the narcissist's favorite psychological weapon. They don't need to shout or argue with logic. All they need to do is plant a single seed of doubt in your mind and let you torture yourself in the darkness of confusion. You're imagining things. I never said that. You're being too sensitive. Those words seem harmless, but repeated long enough, they blur the line between truth and lies. You start apologizing for things you didn't do. You try to be better, be calmer, not be so emotional, just to keep the peace. And without realizing it, you begin to lose the ability to trust yourself. Gaslighting is how a narcissist reclaims control in the relationship. By making you doubt your own emotions and memories, they become the only keeper of the truth. And when you believe your memory is wrong, your feelings are wrong, you're forced to depend on them to know what's real. That's when they win. Gaslighting isn't just psychological manipulation, it's the silent destruction of identity. It turns you from someone who once knew exactly who you were into someone terrified of their own emotions. And when you stop trusting yourself, they no longer need to bind you, you bind yourself. 4. Isolation. When they cut you off from the world. No narcissist can control you without isolating you first. And the terrifying part? They never do it directly. They don't say, stop seeing your friends or cut off your family. They do it through calculated sweet, every word, every glance, every drop of guilt carefully placed into your heart. I just want to spend more time with you. Your friends don't seem genuine. They're probably jealous of you. Your family doesn't understand you like I do. At first, it sounds romantic. Who wouldn't want a partner so devoted, so attentive? But slowly, you start to fade from your old life. You cancel plans with friends. You stop returning calls from loved ones. Your world begins to shrink until the only person left in it is them, the center of your thoughts, emotions, and happiness. This isolation doesn't happen overnight. It comes slowly, sweetly, wrapped in reasonable excuses. And by the time you notice, every other connection has faded away, leaving you with no one to turn to when they become cruel. That's the narcissist's goal, to remove every witness, every source of support, so that when you're in pain, no one hears your cry for help. They turn your world into a locked room, one where they hold the only key. And inside that room, they no longer need to shout to control you. A single cold look, a day of silence, or a quiet threat to leave is enough to make you submit completely. This is no longer love. It's a prison built out of loneliness. 5. Projection and blame shifting, when they turn their faults into yours. Once they've isolated you, the narcissist moves onto a far more dangerous game, reversing reality. Whenever they make a mistake, they'll make you believe you're the one who's wrong. If they lie, they accuse you of being dishonest. If they explode in anger, they say you provoked them. If they hurt you, they tell you you're too sensitive. That's projection, a psychological defense mechanism where they throw their inner darkness onto you, just to avoid facing it themselves. They can't bear the feeling of guilt, so they dump it onto the person closest to them, the one they know will forgive, overthink, and blame themselves. You. Their accusations aren't meant to debate, they're meant to re-establish power. Because the moment you start doubting yourself, they win again. You'll try to prove your innocence, to explain, to talk things out, not realizing you've already been pulled into a game with no end. A narcissist doesn't want truth, they want emotional control. Every time you argue, cry, or defend yourself, they know they still have influence over you. And then when you're completely drained, they suddenly turn gentle, they hug you, offer a half-hearted apology, saying it was all a misunderstanding. You'll feel relief, thinking the storm has passed, but in reality they've just reset the cycle of manipulation. The next day, the game begins again. Projection makes you believe you're the problem in the relationship, when in fact, they're the one creating the chaos. It's a form of mental hypnosis, where the victim slowly begins to believe they deserve the pain and blame. And once you believe that, you start apologizing for the wounds they inflicted. At that point, they don't just control your actions, they control your truth. 6. Devaluation, when the one who once worshipped you starts to destroy you. This is the most painful stage, because it shatters everything you once believed was love. The person who used to look at you with admiration now looks at you with coldness and contempt. The one who once called you the best thing that ever happened to them now says you're selfish, weak, and difficult. You don't understand what happened. You only know that you're no longer loved the way you used to be. This is devaluation, the stage where the narcissist removes the mask and begins to slowly destroy your image, piece by piece. The sweetness that once felt like love becomes a weapon. Compliments turn into criticisms. Action turns into silence. Warm hugs turn into invisible, icy distance. They make you believe you've changed, that you're not as lovable as before, that you're ruining everything. But the truth is, you haven't changed. You're just starting to see them clearly. And to a narcissist, that's the ultimate threat. Devaluation is when they unload all their inner darkness onto you. They need you to feel weak so they can feel powerful. They need you to break so they can believe they still have control. And they'll do anything, criticize, mock, withdraw, even betray, just to watch the light in your eyes fade away. The cruelest part, every time you're about to leave, they suddenly reappear as the person you first fell for. Gentle, attentive, even tearful. You think maybe they've changed, but they haven't. It's just another round of love bombing designed to pull you back into their game. Devaluation isn't the end of love, it's the beginning of psychological destruction. They don't just want to hurt you, they want you to doubt your own worth until you no longer have the strength to walk away. 7. The silent treatment, when silence becomes the most dangerous weapon. When every word, every tactic, every accusation stops working, the narcissist reaches for their final weapon, silence. No more arguments, no more criticism, no more signals at all, just a cold, hollow absence. No messages, no eye contact, no explanations. And it's within that emptiness that you begin to destroy yourself in silence. This is the silent treatment, the most insidious form of psychological punishment. It doesn't hurt through harsh words, but through the complete absence of connection. The human brain is wired for attachment. When that bond is suddenly cut off, it reacts as if its very survival is at risk. You start to panic, texting, apologizing, begging for communication, even when you don't know what you've done wrong. You just want them to speak again. But that's exactly what they want, to watch you squirm in the silence, desperate for any reaction, even a single word. They stay silent, not for peace, but for power. Their silence says, I decide when you are seen and when you are forgotten. And you, out of love, fear, or the craving for validation, unknowingly hand them that power. But here's the truth. Their silence is not peace. It's psychological warfare. They withdraw not to reflect, but to make you collapse and return in weakness. And they use silence to reset control, so that when they finally speak again, you'll feel relieved, grateful, and ready to forgive. The silent treatment is the final stage of the narcissistic cycle. Love bombing, devaluation, discard, hoovering. A cruel loop that makes you believe you're being loved again, when in reality, you're being pulled back into more destruction. The cycle only ends when you choose silence, not out of fear, but out of awareness. When you no longer need their response, when their silence no longer triggers you, you reclaim your power. And in that moment, in your true silence, the game ends. If you've ever experienced this, the intense love, followed by cold cruelty, the half-hearted apologies, the endless cycles, understand this: you are not weak. You were manipulated. A narcissist never truly loves you. They love the reflection of themselves in your eyes. When you admire them, they feel powerful. When you suffer because of them, they feel alive. But the moment you start to see them clearly, they panic, because their power only exists in your blindness. Awakening doesn't happen overnight. It begins the moment you stop explaining. Stop trying to make them understand. Stop blaming yourself for the pain someone else caused. You start stepping back, observing, and recognizing the pattern, as if you're watching an old movie where you once played the lead role. And this time, you decide to walk off the stage. Because real power isn't about changing the narcissist. It's about choosing not to be controlled anymore. When you stop reacting, stop begging, stop orbiting around them, their game collapses. Your silence is no longer fear, it becomes freedom. Remember, you don't need to win against them. You just need to walk away from their chaos. And when you do, your light, the very light they tried to extinguish, returns stronger than ever. This is not the end. This is your beginning.